Revenge does not need fireworks. It needs patience, documentation, and a target that thinks it is untouchable. Dax spent his days parading through departments like a motivational poster with teeth. He organized sunflare sprints, where junior developers competed to delete things they had never read. He made a leaderboard called the Legacy Eradicator Scoreboard. The prize was a plastic trophy shaped like a rocket and a shout-out on the internal chat. I watched it all with the calm of someone watching toddlers play with matches in a room full of gasoline. My desk was near the back wall, close enough to the server hallway that I could hear when the air conditioning strained. I had a habit of arriving early morning and leaving late evening, not for loyalty, but because systems liked quiet. Quiet made patterns easier to see. And I saw a pattern. Dax did not want to replace legacy. Dax wanted to erase authorship. He wanted a world where everything that worked was credited to him, and everything that broke was blamed on the past. He asked for access simplification. He asked for a single sign-on vendor he discovered through a networking brunch. The vendor had a bright name, Nimbus Latch, and a sales rep who smiled like a lockpick. I read the contract draft. The terms were sloppy, the security guarantees were vague, the implementation plan was essentially "trust us." I flagged it in writing. Dax replied with 3 words. Noted. Moving forward. That was his favorite phrase. It made him sound responsible while he ignored everything. So I built something of my own. I called it Juniper. Juniper was not malware. Juniper was not sabotage. Juniper was a guardian with sharp edges, woven into the permission fabric that everyone else treated like wallpaper. For years, I had maintained a safety rail in the access system. It ensured that the backup vault could always be opened by a validated admin key in an emergency. The company believed that rail simply existed, like gravity. Juniper added a condition. If Greybark ever deleted my identity from the security directory, not merely disabled it, not merely expired it, but deleted it, the system would interpret that as a hostile action. In that case, the backup vault would seal itself behind a key pair that only I held. No ransoms, no threats, just logic. You delete the locksmith, you lose the keys. I did not hide Juniper in a dark corner. I hid it in plain boredom. I named the folder like a dead onboarding archive. I timestamped it to match a retired compliance policy. If anyone scanned it, their eyes would slide right off it. While Dax ran his innovation huddles, I made sure every pathway that mattered had one clear truth. I had built it, I understood it, and I was tired of being treated like an inconvenience. He kept poking me. One day he held up my old runbook in front of the team like a dirty sock. Look, everyone, Mara has a binder. A binder. Who even uses paper anymore? A few people laughed. The laughter tasted like panic. I said, that binder is the only reason we passed the last audit. Dax shrugged. Audits are just fear with a spreadsheet. Later, he moved my chair. He said he needed my desk closer to the exit for accessibility. His smile suggested he meant retirement, not comfort. I smiled back. You are thoughtful, I said. I love an exit strategy. That week, I received an invite to a meeting called Talent Refresh Review. It included human resources and Dax. The agenda said, alignment on future org needs. That is corporate for, we are sharpening the knife. I attended, calm. HR read from a script that tried to sound kind while being hollow. Dax leaned back, hands behind his head. You have contributed, he said, but the future requires different energy. Faster energy. Cloud-native energy. He said energy, the way a salesman says limited time offer. I asked, have you mapped the depot failover chain? He blinked. That is operational detail. My team will handle it. I nodded. Your team cannot handle a toaster. HR flinched. Dax laughed, but it was a thin laugh, a laugh that meant he planned to punish me later. Punishment arrived before the week ended. I opened my laptop early morning and found an email. Access update notification. It said my admin permissions had been restructured for role alignment. Translation: Dax had begun carving me out. He wanted me small enough to ignore, then gone enough to forget. I closed the email. I opened Juniper. I checked the triggers. Everything was ready. Then I did one more thing, for fun and for justice. I started collecting evidence, not of insults, but of incompetence. Dax had been bypassing change control, falsifying migration reports, and claiming progress that had not happened. He was performing modernization like theater. The board loved theater. So I prepared a spotlight. Because when people like Dax fall, they do not slip. They step forward confidently into a trap and call it innovation. The meltdown began on a Monday that smelled like stale pastries and executive overconfidence. Dax arrived late morning with a smoothie the color of regret and a hoodie that read, "Future Proof." He walked into the bullpen, clapped his hands twice, and announced, "Sunflare Phase 1 is live. Today, we cut the old cords." The phrase "cut the old cords" made the operations manager, Len, physically wince. Len had the face of someone who had seen too many crises and too few apologies. Dax did not notice. He was already performing. "Everyone ready?" he asked, spinning his chair toward the main admin console. He tapped keys with the confidence of someone typing for an audience. He launched the new identity layer. He clicked a button labeled Decommission Legacy Admin Objects. He looked toward me, waiting for my face to crack. I kept my eyes on my screen, where a quiet line in the logs whispered a truth no one else could hear. User record deletion event detected. Juniper woke up like a cat hearing a can opener. At first, nothing looked wrong. That is the beauty of systems. They do not scream when you insult them. They simply stop obeying. Dax refreshed the admin console. The page stalled. He frowned. He clicked again. An error appeared. Permission denied. Primary administrator unavailable. He laughed once, the way people laugh at a door that refuses to open, as if the door should be embarrassed. "Cute," he said. "Who set the message text?" No one answered. Across the room, a junior developer named Evan raised a hand. "I cannot reach the deployment vault." Another voice. "The depot barcode service is timing out." Another. "The vendor portal is returning a blank token." Dax kept clicking. Every click was a drumbeat of denial. "Just reset it," he snapped, to nobody in particular. Len stepped closer. "Dax, the yard gates are not responding." Dax waved him away like Len was a fly. "It is a temporary authentication bottleneck. Classic first-day wobble." Then the first call came in from operations. Not a friendly call. A call with fear in it. "Trucks are stacking up," Len said, holding his phone away from his ear like the voice inside could bite. "The depot scanners are frozen. The routing tickets are not issuing." Dax's smile tightened. He tried to access the backup vault. The backup vault replied with silence, then the same sentence again. "Permission denied. Primary administrator unavailable." The room changed temperature. Even the air conditioning sounded nervous. Dax stood up, suddenly too tall, too loud. "Where is the override?" Evan swallowed. "The override requires an escrow key." "Then use it." Evan stared at the screen. "It is sealed." Dax looked around, eyes darting, hunting for someone to blame. His gaze landed on me like a thrown object. "Mara," he said, voice sharp. "Fix this." I turned slightly, like someone turning a page. "I do not have access anymore." "That is not funny." "I am not laughing." Dax stormed toward HR. The HR director, Sienna, had already turned pale. She was flipping through emails on her phone like she could summon reality by scrolling hard enough. Sienna looked at Dax and whispered, "Did you delete her directory object?" Dax scoffed. "We restructured. It is standard." Sienna's eyes widened. "Delete is not restructure." Len received another call. His face went gray. The depot gates are defaulting to safety lock. They cannot open. Dax finally stopped moving like a man who realized he was not running the room anymore, just bouncing off walls. The CEO, Calder Wynn, arrived with the expression of someone who had just learned his house was built on quicksand. "What is happening?" he asked. Dax launched into explanation mode, which is what incompetent people do when they run out of control. "It is a transient identity ripple. Nimbus latch is stabilizing. We are in a cutover window." Calder looked at Len. "Is that true?" Len did not hesitate. "No." Calder looked at Evan. "Can you restore from backup?" Evan shook his head. "The vault is sealed behind a legacy keychain." Calder's eyes narrowed. "Whose keychain?" "Silence is honest when it has nowhere to hide." Sienna answered softly. "Mara." Dax spun toward me again, desperation dressed as anger. "You did this." I stood, slow, not dramatic. "I built safeguards years ago. I warned you not to delete things you did not understand." Calder took a breath like it hurt. "Mara, what do you need to open the vault?" I considered the room, the panic, the blinking monitors, the executives sweating through their confidence. Then I said the one line that turned the power dynamic inside out. "I need respect, in writing." Dax made a choking sound. Calder did not argue. He looked like a man swallowing pride because the alternative was drowning. "Name your terms," Calder said. Dax stared at him as if the CEO had betrayed him. In a way, he had. Reality tends to betray arrogance. I picked up my bag. "I will send them," I said, and walked out while the system kept repeating its calm little truth, like a lock with perfect manners. I did not go home. Home would have made this feel emotional. I went somewhere cleaner, a quiet diner called Copper Cup, where the coffee was bitter and the booths were old enough to remember consequences. I sat by the window with my laptop and drafted a contract like a person who had been underestimated for decades. No emergencies, no late-night calls, no quick favors, paid in advance, consulting fee that hurt, public apology, title restoration, severance guarantee, and a clause that required a board review of all modernization claims made under Project Sunflare. That last clause was my dessert. Because I did not only want my dignity back, I wanted the theater to stop. I wanted the lie exposed. Calder called. His voice sounded older than it had that morning. "Mara," he said, "we will do the money. We will do the apology. We will do the title. Please open the vault." I took a sip of coffee. "You will also do the board review." There was a pause. Paper rustled on his end, the sound of people whispering. Then Calder said, "Agreed." Dax, apparently, grabbed the phone. "Mara," he hissed, "you are holding the company hostage." I smiled into the cup. "No. I retired already, remember? You told me to." "Open the vault," he demanded. "Say it," I replied. "What?" "Say you were wrong." Silence again, but now it was the silence of someone staring at a mirror. Dax tried a different angle. "You are being emotional." I laughed once, genuinely. Emotional is deleting the only admin you have because you wanted applause. He inhaled hard, then spat the words like they tasted awful. "I was wrong." I let the silence hang a moment longer. Not cruelty, calibration. Then I said, "Send the signed terms to my email. Use a personal address. Your system cannot reach me." Calder took over again. "Done." While they scrambled, I opened my evidence folder. Weeks of it. Change control bypasses, false migration reports, vendor kickback emails, and a private chat log where Dax bragged about shaving compliance corners to impress the board. He had been selling a future he could not build, using my past as a scapegoat. When the signed contract arrived, I drove back, badgeless, through the side entrance that still recognized my face, even if Dax had tried to erase my name. The security guard, Niles, nodded at me. They look scared. They should, I said. Inside, the office sounded like an aquarium full of anxious fish. Phones rang. People stood in clusters. Someone had printed an outage checklist and highlighted it like highlighter could fix anything. Calder met me in the hallway. He looked relieved and furious, both emotions fighting for his mouth. I am sorry, he said, and for once it sounded real. We failed you. I nodded. Yes. Dax stood behind him, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He tried to look powerful, but power does not live in a person who just begged a lock to open. We entered the server room. The racks hummed like monks refusing to pray for sinners. I sat at the console. Evan hovered nearby like a kid watching a master mechanic. I plugged in a small hardware key. Nothing dramatic, no hacker theatrics, just a deliberate click, like a door finally recognizing its rightful owner. Juniper asked for my key pair. I provided it. The backup vault unlocked with a soft chime. Systems began to breathe again, one service at a time. Depot gates, routing tickets, barcode translators, vendor portals. The office screens brightened as if someone had lifted a blanket off their faces. Len exhaled. Evan whispered, "That was elegant." I did not look at Dax. I looked at Calder. "We are not done," I said. "What do you mean?" I opened a folder labeled Sunflare Audit Packet and slid it across the console. "This is what Dax did while mocking the people who built your foundation," I said. "If you want modernization, do it. But do not do it with liars." Calder opened the folder. His eyes moved. His expression hardened. Dax stepped forward. "This is retaliation." I spoke calmly. "This is documentation." Calder looked up. "Is any of this false?" Dax's mouth opened, closed, opened again. He chose the worst possible defense, a confident lie. "Fabricated," he said. So I activated the final piece of revenge, the one I had saved for the board. I pressed a key. The big screen in the adjacent conference room lit up because I had routed the audit packet to the board meeting feed the moment my contract clause was signed. No shouting, no threats, just the truth, delivered on schedule. And somewhere in the building, I heard a sound I had waited years to hear, the soft, unmistakable crack of an ego splitting under its own weight. The board meeting did not last long. Lies rarely do when they are forced into fluorescent lighting. Calder walked into the conference room with my packet in his hands and Dax trailing behind him like a shadow that still thought it was a person. Through the glass walls, I saw executives lean forward, faces sharp, eyes narrowing as they read. Dax tried to speak first. He always did. He tried to turn every moment into a keynote. "It is a misunderstanding," he began. "Legacy teams are threatened by change, and—" One board member, a woman with silver hair and the calm of someone who had fired many loud men, raised a hand. "Stop," she said. Dax stopped. She held up a page. "Did you sign a vendor agreement with Nimbus Latch without security review?" Dax laughed, the small nervous laugh of someone who believed charm could rewrite evidence. "We moved fast because speed is—" "Answer," she said. Dax glanced at Calder. Calder did not help him. Another board member read from a screen. "This chat log shows you instructing a manager to report a migration milestone that had not occurred. Is that accurate?" Dax's eyes flashed toward me, as if I had placed the words into his mouth. He said, "Those are jokes." The silver-haired board member replied, "Jokes do not have invoices attached." Calder finally spoke, voice low and deadly. "Dax, did you accept referral compensation from Nimbus Latch?" Dax's face tightened. "That is standard networking." "It is not standard," Calder said, "when you hide it." The room went quiet in that way that means a decision has already been made. Sienna from HR entered with a folder. She did not look at Dax. She looked at Calder, then at the board. The silver-haired board member nodded once. "Remove him." Dax stood there, stunned. like a magician whose rabbit had filed a complaint. "You cannot," he said. "I am the future." Calder replied, "You are a liability." It was the line Dax had tried to staple onto me. It fit him better. Security escorted Dax out without drama. There were no screams, no thrown objects, just the hollow shuffle of a man realizing his audience had left. An hour later, Calder stood in the bullpen, in front of everyone, and did something I had not seen this company do in years. He apologized without hiding behind buzzwords. "Mara Klein built the systems that keep this company alive," he said. "We failed to respect that. We will correct it." He looked directly at me. "I am sorry." I nodded. "Good." Then came the part that made the room hold its breath. Calder cleared his throat. "Mara has accepted a consulting role under her terms. She will help us stabilize. We will also create a new program to document and transfer critical knowledge properly." Someone in product whispered, "Finally." Evan looked relieved, like he had been watching a bridge sway and finally saw the cables. Later, in Calder's office, he slid a printed letter across the desk. A formal apology. My restored title, Principal Systems Steward. A severance guarantee that could fund my peace. A new internal policy banning single-person deletion of critical access without review. Calder asked, "Will you stay long-term?" I looked at the city through the window. "No." He frowned. "Why not? We will treat you better." "You should treat everyone better," I said. "I do not exist to be your lesson." I worked the stabilization week under my contract. I did it cleanly, like I always had. I wrote clear documentation. I trained Evan and Len on the backup vault. I forced them to rehearse recovery drills until they could do it half asleep. And then I did something that felt like a benediction. I dismantled Juniper, not because I regretted it, because the point had been made. A lock is only necessary when people keep trying to steal the door. On my last day, early morning light spilled across the server room floor. The racks hummed steady, content, as if relieved to be understood again. Evan came by with a small box. Inside was a new mug, painted by hand. It read, "Foundation Team." "I am sorry," he said, earnest. "We laughed. We were stupid." I accepted the mug. "You were young. Try not to stay that way." He smiled, nervous. "Will you ever come back?" "I will come back," I said, "if you break something interesting." He laughed, then caught himself. "No contractions," he corrected, remembering my rule. I left through the side stairwell, the quiet route, past the old emergency binder case, past the vending machine that still hated credit cards. The air outside felt like permission. My phone buzzed once, a message from Calder. "Thank you." I replied with 4 words, because revenge is best served with simplicity. "Read the binder next time." Then I put the phone away and walked forward, not as a ghost in the machine, but as a person who finally remembered she was allowed to leave. Behind me, Greybark continued running. Not because Dax had modernized it, because the people who built it had finally been seen, and because the future, it turns out, works a lot better when it respects the past that made it possible.